There is a world of separation between dominating a basketball game and barely crawling out of one alive. On Wednesday night inside Crypto.com Arena, the Indiana Fever did not resemble a title contender. They appeared fragile, jittery, and totally unhinged. This was supposed to be the layup game, the reset opportunity, the dream matchup against a Los Angeles Sparks squad that finished rock bottom in the Western Conference 1 year ago. Instead, the Fever almost imploded with the whole league watching. 24 giveaways, shattered perimeter shooting, sideline calls that raised eyebrows, and a comfortable cushion that practically vanished in the closing minutes. If Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell had not seized control down the stretch, this entire conversation flips on its head. Sure, Indiana walked out of Los Angeles with an 87-78 result, but do not let the scoreboard deceive you. This wasn't dominance, this was barely getting by. Welcome back to WNBA Pro. Today we are unpacking the messy, inconvenient reality behind Indiana's first triumph of the year. While supporters toast the outcome, sharp basketball minds are already flashing red warning lights. Because what unfolded against the Sparks was not the showing of a title-caliber roster. It was the showing of a squad wrestling with messy execution, shaky shot-making, post-discipline gone missing, and serious rotation puzzles. And the most unsettling piece, this was supposed to be the soft portion of the calendar. So tap that subscribe button, flip that notification bell on, and let us autopsy one of the uglier wins of this young WNBA campaign.
Woo! That got a little hairy at the end of this game. At the end of this game, it got a little hairy. And, wow, Caitlin Clark kind of saved the day here in the last quarter of this game. But even with that, in the second half, Indiana Fever had trouble scoring points. I mean, no doubt about it. They got a win, but the Sparks, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
Let us begin with what genuinely worked. Because within the bedlam of this messy contest, there were flashes of true, undeniable greatness. Even while battling her shot, Caitlin Clark showcased exactly why she is already one of the most lethal facilitators on the planet. She wrapped the night with 24 points, 9 assists, 4 boards, and 2 steals across 31 minutes of work. She was deadly efficient inside the line, finishing 9 of 17 from the field overall, which translates to 52.9%. She was flawless at the charity stripe, going a clean 5 for 5. She finished +5 in the plus-minus column during her stretches on the court. When Clark locks in as the orchestrator, she fires off passes that no one else in this entire league even spots, let alone delivers. She was lacing dimes to Kelsey Mitchell in the open floor. She was hitting Monique Billings on the pick and roll. She was placing the ball directly in Sophie Cunningham's release zone. Through long stretches of the opening half, she was running the offense with surgical command. And speaking of Sophie Cunningham, she gave us precisely the rebound showing WNBA Pro demanded earlier in the week. After her disappearing act, her 0-point dud against the Dallas Wings, she walked into Los Angeles looking like an entirely new athlete. She logged 27 minutes and shot 5 of 9 from the field, draining 2 of her 5 attempts from deep for a critical 12 points. She finished +14 on the night, the top plus-minus figure across the entire Fever roster. That is the version of Sophie Cunningham this team has to stay afloat. Not the timid figure who evaporated in the opener, but the fearless, locked-in wing who attacks big moments, knocks them down, and infuses the floor with energy. We also have to hand out enormous deserved credit to Kelsey Mitchell. Mitchell is on a supermax deal, and right now, she is justifying every dollar of it, with consecutive scoring explosions. Against Los Angeles, she poured in 23 points on 9 of 17 from the field. She knocked down 3 of her 9 looks from beyond the arc. Through the opening 2 games of this early stretch, Mitchell is putting up a wild 26.5 points per night. She is in a complete zone, and honestly, she is the offensive lifeline keeping this whole operation upright. And lastly, Monique Billings, the overlooked piece of the offseason shuffle. She slotted into the starting group and grinded out 26 hard minutes. 9 points, 8 rebounds, 50% from the floor. She injected an interior toughness the Fever have been begging for. But folks, that is where the good news officially wraps up. Because once you start peeling back the layers of this 87-78 escape, you uncover a roster that is fundamentally cracked in multiple key spots.
At 17, she still cannot find her three-point shot. I don't know what's going on. I think that's something that's consistent, in my opinion, with an injury of some sort. whether it's lower body, whether it's a back, whatever it is. By the way, Lexi Hull now wearing a back brace. I was in the Ben Daniel podcast chat tonight. We were joking. They're going to end up having the whole team in a brace if we're not.
Easy now. Let us address the loudest alarm coming out of this matchup. Caitlin Clark's perimeter shooting. Going up against the Los Angeles Sparks, Clark managed just 1 of 7 from beyond the arc, just 1 make on 7 tries. That is 14.3%. Through the first pair of contests on the schedule, she is at a rough 3 of 16 from deep. And that is genuinely puzzling for a shooter who hit 40% during her Olympic qualifying run and dedicated her offseason to working alongside acclaimed shooting guru Brandon Payne to fine-tune her form. Right now, the stroke simply does not appear settled. Her trademark step-back triple keeps falling shy of the mark, clanging the front iron more often than typical. Sometimes that can hint at tired legs, rhythm problems, or even some nagging lower body soreness in the early going. The silver lining for Indiana is that Clark is still tilting the floor at a superstar level as a distributor and game manager. But the Fever offense ascends to a totally different ceiling once her outside shot starts splashing through. And then we have the giveaways. Clark coughed it up 6 times against Los Angeles after putting up 5 in the Dallas opener. That equals 11 turnovers in 2 appearances from your lead guard. Now, in fairness, plenty of those came from aggressive elite-level reads against defenders jumping passing lanes from the jump and hounding the pick and roll. These were not lazy lapses, but at this tier, executing cleanly is essential. Against rebuilding rosters, you might escape those slip-ups. Against squads like the Aces or the Liberty, those possessions transform into instant buckets headed the other direction. That is exactly why ball care is going to be one of the loudest narratives to watch as the Fever keep adapting to the speed and intensity of these early matchups.
Yeah, got a little scary there at the end. Don't let anybody try to spin this, that this was some great defensive performance, because it was not. If they do, they are gaslighting you. They are absolutely gaslighting you. At one point, I saw the Sparks were 13 for 37 shooting the ball. Now, they scored a bunch of points.
And while we are dwelling on unsustainable basketball, we need to dive into a very direct, very awkward dialogue about head coach Stephanie White and her decisions with the rotation. Because there is a giant elephant parked on the Indiana Fever bench, and her name is Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. For the second straight regular season tilt, Shatori Walker-Kimbrough was handed a DNP coach's decision. She did not see 1 tick of the clock. She sat in warm-ups the whole night. Allow me to paint the picture so you can grasp how baffling this call really is. Throughout the preseason, Walker-Kimbrough was the leading bench bucket getter on the entire Indiana Fever depth chart. She dropped 18 points in the preseason debut against the New York Liberty. She looked dynamic. She looked at home inside the scheme. She looked precisely like the veteran scoring spark this group desperately requires when the starters need a breather. Let us not get this mixed up with
that, folks. Wow. Final 87-78. Fever scored 20 and 19 in the third and fourth quarters, respectively. Gave up 26 in the fourth quarter of this game and escaped.
And yet, the moment the regular season tipped off, Walker-Kimbrough was abruptly shoved entirely outside the rotation. Naturally, that move only sparks more curiosity once you examine Indiana's reserve output against Los Angeles. The Fever starters racked up 67 points. The reserves chipped in just 20. Clark and Kelsey Mitchell teamed up for 47 of those by themselves, while the rest of the available bodies collectively contributed 40. That is an enormous burden carried by 2 athletes, only 2 games deep into this campaign. Meanwhile, the reserve crew of Lexi Hull, Michaela Timpson, Damiris Dantas, Tiasha Harris, Raven Johnson, and Mia Shahanes-Allen combined to convert just 6 of 17 from the floor. That does not automatically suggest this roster lacks ability. But right now, it certainly hints that the second group is still hunting for a steady offensive rhythm and dependable scoring punch. And that is exactly why the Walker-Kimbrough situation morphs into such a fascinating subplot. Because while Indiana sputtered offensively at stretches in this game, particularly deep into the second half, one of the squad's most efficient preseason bucket getters stayed planted on the pine. The lingering question now is whether this rotation holds up as the level of opposition climbs across the season.
At the end of the half, after they went to half, got into it with the ref, got teed up. got teed up in this game. So that was interesting. And then, guys, we got to see this. Here's Caitlin with the three. Look, the catch and shoot.
And as though the reserve concerns were not nerve-wracking enough, we now must confront the total vanishing act of the franchise post player. We have to discuss Aaliyah Boston. Only months back, the Indiana Fever locked Aaliyah Boston into a sizable 4-year, $6.3 million extension. She is a second-team All-WNBA honoree. She is meant to be the defensive cornerstone and the unstoppable engine on pick-and-roll actions alongside Caitlin Clark. Against the Dallas Wings on opening night, she looked terrific, going 9 of 14 and dropping 7 dimes. But against the Los Angeles Sparks, she was utterly invisible. Aaliyah Boston logged 22 minutes. She got off exactly 3 shots from the field. She converted 0 of them, 0 for 3. Her only scoring contribution in the entire contest arrived on 4 made freebies. She hauled in 7 boards, posted 0 assists, and ultimately fouled out of the game with 3 minutes and 32 seconds left in the final frame. You cannot have your franchise post, your foundational big, posting up 0 baskets and fouling out during the most consequential stretches of a tight contest, full stop. There are no alibis. Yes, we recognize she is still ramping back into peak game shape following the lower leg ailment that wiped out her entire preseason. We get that she is still scraping off the rust. But the Indiana Fever simply do not own the cushion to survive evenings where both Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark are struggling from the field at the same time. They scarcely got past the Sparks. If Boston goes 0 for 3 against Jonquel Jones and the New York Liberty, the Fever are losing by 30. And we cannot leave out Lexi Hull. Hull saw 12 minutes and put up exactly 1 point on 0 for 1 from the field. Allow me to refresh her season figures for you. Across the opening 2 regular season outings, Lexi Hull has logged 25 total minutes and produced a grand total of 1 point. This is the same shooter who knocked down 47% from beyond the arc a season ago. This is the player who is supposed to deliver the elite spacing required so Caitlin Clark can carve up the paint. She is plainly still impacted by that hamstring problem. And the Fever Medical Group is keeping her on tight minute limitations. The truth right now is that she is a total non-presence offensively. And without her pull on the perimeter, opposing defenses are simply collapsing into the paint and inviting the Fever to launch from outside.
17, 1 of 7 from three-point range, 9 assists, 24 points for Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Mitchell, 23 points, 9 of 17, 3 of 9 from three-point range. Sophie added in some valuable points tonight. She had 7 rebounds, 12 points. Monique Billings, 8 rebounds, 9 points in this ball game. And Kelsey Plum had 25 for the LA Sparks. Whoa.
I have to tell you, listen. So what comes next? What is the genuine, unfiltered lesson hidden inside this 87-78 outcome in Los Angeles? Do not let the post-game podium spin mislead you. Do not buy the narrative from the local TV crews insisting that the Indiana Fever locked in with suffocating defense over the final 2 quarters. The Los Angeles Sparks did not finish with 78 points because the Fever clamped down on them. The Sparks finished with 78 because they played sloppy, scattered, frantic basketball. At one juncture during the 3rd frame, Los Angeles was hitting just 13 of 37 from the floor. They botched gimme layups, they launched the rock into the bleachers. They sabotaged themselves. The Indiana Fever did not deliver a defensive masterclass. They merely happened to be a touch less disastrous than the worst club in the Western Conference. If you scan the body of work through 2 games of the 2026 campaign, you are not staring at a championship hopeful. On May 9th, they fell by 3 to the Dallas Wings. On May 14th, they squeezed out a 9-point escape against the Los Angeles Sparks. They are leaning completely on the workhorse. Heavy minute outings from Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, while the remainder of the offensive blueprint completely fails to take off. The star load is utterly unsustainable. The bench output is essentially 0. The turnover figure is a glaring weakness, and the team-wide 3-point stroke is completely broken. A win counts the same in the column. They are officially 1-1 on the year. But the regular season is a full marathon, not a quick dash. If head coach Stephanie White does not crack the code on Caitlin Clark's shot mechanics, plug Shatori Walker-Kimbrough into that second unit, and unlock Aaliyah Boston into the $6 million superstar she is being paid to be every single evening, this club is not parading toward a championship banner. They are marching directly toward a humiliating, abrupt opening round exit in the postseason. The WNBA slate is not getting friendlier from this point. The genuine measuring sticks are around the corner, and the rest of the league is studying this film and grinning ear to ear. What is your read, WNBA Pro family? Are you breathing a sigh of relief that they secured the W, or are you horrified by 24 turnovers and a fourth-quarter implosion? Has the moment officially come to panic over Caitlin Clark's three-ball, or is this only early-season cobwebs? And for the love of basketball, why is Shatori Walker-Kimbrough nailed to the sideline? Drop your most honest, unfiltered takes in the comment box below. I scroll through every single one. Crush that like button. Subscribe to the channel for the most no-nonsense, mathematically backed hoops breakdowns anywhere online, and double-check that notification bell is cranked all the way so you never skip a fresh dissection. This is WNBA Pro. We do not sugarcoat ugly wins, and we never plan to. Catch you on the next one.